A good Tuesday morning, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ben Dery, joined by meteorologist Jamie Kagol, and we're here to talk about weather over the next 15 minutes. And Jamie, it has been an active stretch of weather, to say the least.
It certainly has. It certainly has. We get text messages. We're privileged to get text messages that from the Weather Service with those alerts. And my phone
alerts,
yesterday just one right after. I just like. And it was, a lot of them were North Dakota, South Dakota, far northwest Minnesota. So they weren't necessarily our area every time.
But we can define the area that we want to be alerted to so that we don't have to be on and then all of a sudden an alert comes, oh, there's a warning, let's hop to it. So it helps us, in-house kind of keep tabs on everything.
I do beyond our area, so I get all of them.
Oh yeah, I woke up
nuts.
I woke up at 2 o'clock this morning. I looked at my phone, I had 50 messages from the Weather Service telling me that there were storms out there. I'm thinking, wow, what happened last night? Well, I knew there was going to be some storms, but to that magnitude, it was pretty wild. Let's show the storm report map, and you'll see what we mean when we say it's been an active couple of days. This is storm reports over the last 24 hours. Northern Minnesota saw not one, but two separate rounds of severe weather that included some wind damage, some hail, and even, I believe, at least one tornado reported in northwest Minnesota. And then earlier this morning, between like 1:30 in the morning and 3:30, we had more than a dozen severe wind reports in southwest Minnesota, peaking in, I think it was Cottonwood County that saw a 76 mile per hour wind gust. So those storms blossomed rapidly, produced some wind damage down there. And then in a matter of an hour, most of those fizzled to just a couple of light rain showers. So it's been pretty wild the last couple of days.
Yeah, you can see on the storm report map there, there's from Mankato all the way up to Mille Lacs County. You get over towards Hayward, literally nothing.
Yeah,
we have one little hail report there south of Eau Claire. Just shows you that cap we've been talking about, how strong it is. Everything on the outer edges has been incredibly active. I mean, look at all that lightning moving across northern Minnesota.
So that was midday yesterday. Courtney Aiken was breaking into TV coverage, covering that one. We saw a lull. Then here comes the front. We're thinking, okay, these storms forming. Now watch. They just fizzle before they reach the Twin Cities. Wasn't the case everywhere. If you were around Brainerd up towards Crow Wing County, parts of Cass County, did see some nasty weather. And then you can see this morning stuff. It looked impressive immediately. And it based off of what kind of conditions the atmosphere had in front of it as those storms were moving into it. You thought these storms, they're going to continue to roll. So the Weather Service, they issued a severe thunderstorm watch that included the Twin Cities. That's now been allowed to expire, and things are a lot quieter right now than what they were earlier this morning for sure.
Yeah. Also, it highlights just the complicated nature of the forecast, especially this time of year. Not surprising that you're going to have a cap in the atmosphere, and again, that lid that just holds everything down. But how, if you aren't aware of what's going on in the atmosphere aloft, especially, you would look at that line that came in this morning and think, oh my gosh, this is going to go gangbusters. And you just have to think in the back of your mind, okay, there is still that cap. Is it going to overcome it or not? In this case, it really had a hard time doing it. We got some showers, a couple of rumbles, but you can just see how it
ate away at those storms.
I mean, just gone.
Yeah, you can see this morning, there's the heavy storms. Thinking, here we go, and then just fizzled to nothing. So it was a pretty wild day yesterday, and this morning it looked like it started off to be a pretty wild day, and then all of a sudden things are, kind of fizzling. Basically, today is going to be a fairly quiet day. It's still hot, still humid. We're seeing the sunshine return. The best chance for storms has now exited the region. This is microcast. It's going to show dry conditions through most of the afternoon and early evening hours. Now, the leftovers of that front is still kind of in our vicinity. So after 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock this evening, a few isolated storms are possible along that boundary across western Wisconsin and into southeast Minnesota. But these are isolated storm chances, Jamie. I don't think we're going to see a ton coming out of this.
No. And the other forecast models have been showing the same kind of trend. And it's that boundary. Doesn't do a whole lot other than sets up what we have there between Mankato and Rochester out towards Menominee. It really kind of brings the focus to that part of the region. And then tomorrow it starts to move north, and we also get the dynamics, the low-level jets, and look what it does there. It's anticipated to overcome that that cap, which was anticipated to actually weaken a bit today. It may still be strong enough, but that along that boundary we'll have to our southeast of the metro, that's where we'll find it. But tomorrow, yeah, it could be another one where it kind of goes gangbusters.
Yeah, it's a challenging forecast. Regardless, it's like the heat and humidity here to stay. We have chances for storms every day, and yes, some of those could be on the severe side, just based off of how warm and how muggy it is. This is today's severe weather outlook. The green category, we're in that marginal risk for severe weather. That's because this front is kind of slowly moving through, and any storm that does develop, we could see an isolated severe storm, but the threat is lower than what we saw certainly yesterday. And you can see the yellow shaded area in Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan. That's where we have a slightly better chance for severe weather. So that's today. Tomorrow, you can see that slight risk for severe weather intensifies, or grows, I should say, into the Twin Cities area, central southern Minnesota, and much of Wisconsin has a better chance of seeing some severe storms with potentially a couple rounds as we head into your Wednesday. First in the morning and then possibly again later in the afternoon.
Yeah, it'll look like for tomorrow, look like they were highlighting Storm Prediction Center issues, these outlooks like this, really concerned about the hail potential with this one, with just the way the atmosphere is setting up, some large hail. I believe they even signified it with significant, so we could be talking about 2-inch or larger with those storms coming out of northwest Iowa.
And it's really conditional, right? It's for the afternoon round. The morning stuff could be, on the borderline severe stuff, but really it's the afternoon hours on Wednesday where we could see some of those hailers that are probably going to be more isolated in nature, but because we're tapping into the heat of the day, that's where we could see some of the stronger cells. And it's all conditional because if those morning storms that we saw on Microcast for Wednesday morning, if they linger a little bit longer, that limits how much energy we have built up necessary for those storms tomorrow. So it's a conditional threat. The chance for some hailers is there. But we won't really see those form until the storms actually develop. This is today's forecast. It's just as hot as what it was yesterday. However, we don't have nearly as much humidity. The dew points, instead of the mid to upper 70s like what we saw yesterday, the dew points in the 60s, which is still pretty muggy. 92 is still 92, but we're not going to see heat index values in the triple digits like what we saw yesterday as much. I think we could graze 100 in some spots, but otherwise the big time heat and humidity kind of takes a back seat, at least for a couple of days. Here's your 7-day forecast. We should see clearing sky today. Forgot to take that alert out. We had a weather impact alert for this morning. That's basically expiring because the storm threat is over. Additional storms on Wednesday, and then Thursday, looks like the daylight hours will be dry, but then in the evening, that comes another chance for some severe weather. So later Thursday evening, that could linger into Friday morning. And as we get into the upcoming weekend, quieter conditions and slightly cooler, I guess, as we head into Sunday. On Saturday specifically, some isolated storm chances, some atmospheric fireworks there. But otherwise, I see us breaking that 90 streak later this weekend. And certainly not as humid as we head into next week, Jamie.
Yeah, and it was looking like the outlook was that those dew points are going to just kind of trail off slowly. We're not going to have a sharp drop in dew points. Today we get a little relief, that front that's going to drop past through the Twin Cities. That'll bring a drop to the dew points, but they kind of surge again tomorrow. But looking down the rows, you got into the middle of July, looks like they might be trending for a low 60 rather than a remarkable drop back down into the 40s or 50s, which we have seen.
What did you think about the dew point yesterday at MSP? At one time, I saw it got up to, in between hours, it got up to 79 degrees.
Ugh.
The dew point was 79 degrees at one point at MSP. What did you think of that?
I was having flashbacks to my time in Southwest Florida, Fort Myers, because that's summertime for you in Florida, mid 70, upper 70 dew points, and a lot of big reason why snowbirds don't stay down there in Florida. When I moved away from Florida, people asked me, why did you leave Florida? I said, well, vacationing in Florida and living in Florida are two entirely different things. If you're there June, July, and August, it's just a sauna all the time.
Is the air conditioner just running
It
nonstop?
pretty much runs nonstop.
That's pretty
It'll take a little bit of a break, and the house gets quiet, and then you start to hear it humming away again.
You hear like, what? That white noise machine is gone. So this is the dew point trend over the last 20 hours, and you can see what we had to deal with yesterday. So the official readings, the heat index 106, but again, it maxed out at 108 in between hours yesterday afternoon. Just ridiculous. And all of this happened as the air temperature was only 92 degrees. Yeah. So it was the warmest day of the year air temperature wise, but you think like, oh, 96, 97 degrees, that's what it had to have gotten to. No, it was just the fact that it was the dew point, which is a measure of how much moisture is in the air, was so high that we saw heat index values, close to 110.
Yeah, your body has a hard time cooling because it's sweating. You're outside. You're sweating. If you were outside yesterday, I was outside yesterday for a time. You're sweating, but it's not evaporating because there's so much moisture in the air. It's not evaporating, which is a cooling process. And that's why you start to feel like it's 106 rather than 92, 93 degrees.
And look at that. The heat index was still at 100 degrees at 10 o'clock last night. I think that's the craziest part. Still, it felt like 100 degrees when you were out walking your dog at 10 o'clock yesterday evening.
Thank goodness we had a wind. I mean,
can
you imagine
nice.
if it was stagnant air?
Oh, boy.
Ugh.
Yeah, not good. So the worst of the heat and humidity is kind of slipping to our south and east where we have the extreme heat warnings. We still have a heat advisory for the Twin Cities and all those counties highlighted in orange. That's until 9 p.m. tonight. The heat index still could get up to 100 degrees. So it's hot, just not as sultry as what it felt like, yesterday afternoon. So this is the forecast model, and you can kind of make out that boundary. Central southern Minnesota, Twin Cities southward, heat index value topping near 100 degrees. So yes, still pretty sticky, and I think the rest of the week is probably going to look similar to this as we don't have any real significant changes to the forecast. So what you see is kind of what you get. And look at that, little sunshine starting to show up. Those morning storms have exited, still hot, still a little breezy. South-southwest wind between 10 and 15 miles per hour and a high temperature of 92 degrees. So basically it should be as hot as what we saw yesterday, but just not feeling as hot because the heat index is not quite there.
Yeah, we're gonna have the sun out today. That's what concerns me.
Ooh, yeah.
Yesterday we had a fair amount of cloud cover at times, and that takes a little sting out of it. It's still going to feel muggy. You're not gonna get around that, but you can kind of take the sun out of the equation like you did yesterday. It's not terrible. I think today is, the heat index, what are we expecting? Like a 95, a 96?
Yeah, but, heat index could get up to 100, but
the shade is what you're going to be looking for with that sun.
And what's interesting too is our forecast high for yesterday was 96 degrees, and we only got to 92. So the reason for that, and also the heat index, we were saying between 105 and 110. That was on par. That was right forecast, right on par for what we had in store for us. But the air temperature, it didn't warm up to 96 because the humidity levels were higher than forecast. So we had more water in the air than originally forecast. And if you know anything about science and the specific heat of water, is it takes a lot of energy to warm up water. So that means, like, if you have really wet air, it takes more energy to warm that up versus dry air. Yep. Super dry air, you see temperatures, go up and down with the heat of the day, But when you have a lot of moisture, it takes a lot more energy to change the temperature of that. So that's why I think we didn't get the 96 that a lot of folks are looking at, but we still had those soupy heat index values.
Yeah, and those overnight lows will stay high because of that high humidity rate. Again, it's not going to cool off as easily, whereas when you're in the desert, you can have big swings, and that's why the deserts can get chilly at night, but also be very hot. And that's that dry air. Again, you can warm it so much faster, but you can also cool it a lot faster. So when your highs and lows stay close together like that, and they stay very high, it's a very muggy tropical air mass that you're stuck in.
So what do you think our potential is for issuing more weather impact alerts for later this week?
I wouldn't be surprised. I think Wednesday could be one of those days where we're certainly going to consider it. But we had this conversation earlier where we could have a big lull in the afternoon. We could have those, as you like to say, those rowdy storms in the morning, and then we're going to watch for what develops at night. Look like we might have something south and central Minnesota. And then for Thursday, maybe we issue something for the evening hours and then watch it for Friday. Just because of the type of atmosphere we're in right now, getting thunderstorms is going to be very impactful simply because they are going to have a lot of rain in them and quite possibly the severe weather aspect of it all.
Yeah, it's
just waiting for everything to trigger.
That's right. It's a conditional threat for storms, which we will continue to watch through the rest of this work week. Active weather, hot, soupy, just not as hot as what we saw yesterday. We'll have more updates on your weather and more news right around the corner.